What's up, guys? Tukey here, and welcome to the unofficial first episode of my Detroit Red Wings franchise mode rebuilding hockey town. You guys voted for an Eastern Conference team, and the highest rated team in general happened to be the Red Wings. It was close. Winnipeg, not too far off. They would have won had the Western Conference won the poll. Montreal, also not too far behind. Have no fear, though. There could be a time down the road where we eventually use those teams, as I do agree that both could be interesting to use in future series. But for now, we focus on the Red Wings. And if you are somewhat new or just not familiar with why I would title this episode 0, I like to use these episodes as the setup where we figure out the rules. And because I put so much time into editing rosters, time that EA simply can't invest or choose not to invest. And I'll quickly say on that, because it's always a subject whenever I'm critical of, and it's always a discussion whenever I talk about the EA rosters. You'll always hear the analogy that you have so many baskets and so few eggs in terms of what you can put your time into and what you prioritize. And obviously offline rosters, not the biggest priority for EA, which I understand. But again, that is why me and so many other people, just, people who don't even post their results on the internet, someone like a Peter Puck or people that do it on Operation Sports or people on YouTube. I mean, people do it every year. I'm no different. I sink hundreds of hours, most likely, every year into editing these rosters. But the rosters are going to be the main focus of this video, because as for the rules, I'm not aiming to really do anything too specific. As I always say, realism only goes so far, and I will be trying to keep the sim realistic. We're not immediately going to trade out the terrible contracts like a Franz Nielsen deal. We're going to hopefully limit the amount of draft picks we bring in. One change I am looking at is if we draft like a low top 9 prospect I'm never going to use, rather than getting like a 3rd or a 4th round pick that I could get for him, I'll just trade him for a 7th. It'll be minor changes like that that should lead to a different outcome. But that is, again, why we are doing this intro video, because I want to know from you guys if there are any rules, guidelines, restrictions that you want to see me have in this series as we take control of the Red Wings. And the big question as well, the big question, injuries. And I'll put up a poll right here, click the icon in the top right hand corner. I think it still goes there on mobile. Injuries, completely off or very, very reduced? We've tinkered around with it for a few series now. I need an official answer. I know you guys want just a definitive decision on what we are going to do. So that is my first question to you guys. Injuries, completely off, or we'll just have the slider very, very low to make them as infrequent as possible. But when they do happen, obviously they should be some pretty big moments, or could provide pretty big moments in the series. Other settings, though, aside from that, and I will say, too, I'm sorry, you're just looking at a blank screen. We'll get into this in a moment. Other settings in particular, I don't really know. I mean, just like I said, in general, try to limit the draft picks and just not, we're not going to go out and trade for Patrick Laine first thing. We will keep it as realistic as we can. But again, it is up to you guys. What should we do to make this series more interesting for you guys to watch? As always, I want your feedback. These series are for your entertainment and to give me something else to do, because God, I am just terrible with free time. Anyway, all the talk of settings aside, let's get into the rosters. And as you would have seen by now, we have an interesting amount of created players. 95 players, 16 goaltenders that have been added. Now, some of these players would have been added by EA. Keep in mind, I don't think... what roster did I base this, my edits off of? It was probably the first or second roster update. So, for example, Thatcher Demko is still a created player, as opposed to me having all of these edits or started to have made all these edits once EA already added him into the game. Now, there are going to be some interesting notes, like Anders Bjork, an NCAA player, already signed. Of course, his rights belong to the Bruins. But then we'll have people like Austin Cangelosi, I think, close enough, who is an upcoming, unsigned, undrafted NCAA free agent that has been added to the free agent pool. And that's another thing that's going to be a big question, is whether or not we can sign any of those guys or if we just let them go to wherever. And I should say this, I don't want to make too many more changes to the rosters. Simply put, like I said, I've invested a shitload of time into making these rosters and to getting them into a point where I feel like they more accurately represent, or can at least more accurately represent, the actual rosters in real life. Obviously, you'll have certain players here, like Adam Chappie, I don't believe, is on Hartford, or at least wasn't at the start. I have the rosters in a good spot to where I feel like it can make my series unique and interesting. And you're going to see player overalls that you disagree with. You're going to see potentials that you disagree with, and that is fine. And in a few cases, I will be willing to make changes. But for the most part, it has to be a really egregious example, and a lot of people have to agree that it needs to be changed, because I've sunk so much time into it. And I should say too, I will never say like my rosters are perfect and like this amazing, perfectly accurate representation of what EA's roster should be or anything like that. I have overalls and potentials a certain way to try and balance out the fact, like Drake Caggiula, for example. Some people might disagree that he should be an 81 overall, but when you look at his stats, when you look at his advanced stats, and when you look at how many games he has played, it makes more sense to have him be an 81. A common overall number you will see a lot of 76s and a lot of 78s. So Cristobal Nieves, who hasn't had too much NHL experience but has had at least a little bit, is a 76, whereas somebody else who's had a little bit more experience, you'll see 78s and then 80s, and then you'll have someone like Caggiula, who has pretty much been full-time with the Oilers this year and has half-decent stats. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but you guys, you get the point. And if you've been watching my channel, if you've been with me here for a while, or at least throughout NHL 17, you will remember where I made one of these videos before the start of the Bruins and the Fantasy Draft series. And I know people would have probably asked to at least see all of the players that have been added to the game, that I have added to the game, the overalls and the potentials that I've changed. So I figured, why not? But like I said, for the most part, this series is this video is primarily just so that I can get your feedback in the comment section so that we can get everything sorted out and that we can make this series as interesting as possible, which admittingly, I am excited for this series. I mentioned in the poll video, which, Jesus, guys, by the way, over 1,000 views for a video where I'm just like, hey, pick my team for me. That's pretty damn good. That is pretty damn good. Like, you'll and realize that I understand how small of a blip. I'm not even on the radar. That's how small of a blip I am. But you look at a lot of channels, and to have, roughly 50% of my subscriber number, would it be a little bit less or a little bit more at this point? I don't know. We'll say roughly 50% of my subscriber number to watch one video. That just doesn't happen too often. Very difficult for that to happen. So what I'm saying is the support has been pretty ridiculous. We are approaching 3,000 subs very quickly as well. So I don't know what to say. I thank you guys as much as possible, not because I feel like I have to, but because it's not that it's required, but I just feel the need to, because it is crazy. I never expected to get more than 500 tops if I was lucky. So yeah, feeling pretty good about things. And that too, like the Tukey's Takes videos, they're getting some pretty decent view numbers, which again is just me ranting about hockey, which is awesome because that's pretty much all I ever do anyway. So the fact that I can, make a video like the trade deadline video and have so much discussion take place in the comment section is amazing. So just in general, as I struggle to find something to talk about as I scroll through this ridiculous amount of names, Spencer Fu, by the way, great name. As I struggle to find something to talk about, I figured what better thing to talk about than your ridiculous support of me and my channel. But that is the end of the list. And by the way, it's a shame you can't put a space or a hyphen in between names anymore. But Zach Aston Reese, who right now is the leading scorer in the NCAA, is one of those free agents that we talked about. Now, the big question here is how long do I want this video to be? Because I could... fucking hell. You know what? Let's just do it, because if I don't scroll through this, people will be like, oh, I want to know what the Ducks overalls are and the potentials and all that. So let's just, fuck it. Let's just go through this again. Whatever. And to those that want to watch, and see certain teams, you can. For, those that just want to let me know their input on rules, restrictions, guidelines, like I mentioned, feel free to do that in the comment section below. In the first episode, the official first episode of this series, where we take control of the Wings, will be happening very, very shortly. But like I said, you might disagree with overalls, you might disagree with potentials, and that's fine. That's the wonderful thing about overalls and potentials, is that it's up for debate because you are assigning a number to a player. It's a flawed system when you really think about it. So there's always going to be debate. But for me, like I said, I feel like these rosters are at a decent point. And it is tough, too, because it is just one person's decision on how you rank certain players. Like, for EA, for example, I'm still not sure of how they, go about, like, is it one person? Is it a small committee of people? I know the best idea would probably, why is Chara high elite? I don't even know why he's high elite. It doesn't matter anyway. It won't affect him. He's already, of course, older than 26. But I don't know if they have, like, a small committee. Like, if it was my job, which would be fucking stupid, but if it were my job, I think ideally you'd want a group of at least 2, ideally 4 people to segment it out. So basically, you would have, you could have each, one individual follow and focus on each division, and that way, you can get more accurate stats as opposed to 1 or 2 people having to worry about all of the prospects, the NHL, the AHL, and all of that. So I've done this video before where I've had to go through the entire thing. I ran out of steam in that video. I am definitely going to run out of steam in this video, and unfortunately I am going to have to bring up a lot of the same points. That being, like I said, overalls, potentials you might disagree with. Some potentials we both might disagree with, because this game can randomly change. I meant to go to forwards. What am I doing? This game can randomly change someone's potential. For example, Elias Lindholm. I could put him at high top 6. The game could change it to low top 9, and there's nothing I can do about it. So that is, unfortunately, another frustrating hurdle that you have when editing these rosters. But it is what it is, and you just have to move forward and do the best with what you can. Boy, are people going to be pissed about Varlamov's overall, I am sure. Some people are going to be very pissed about some of the overalls, but again, I don't just say like, oh, I don't know much about Mikhail Grigorenko, so I'm just going to make him an 83. Like, no, I take my time. I look at stats from previous years, this year, advanced stats. Like, I put a lot of fucking effort into this. More time than I am willing to admit. It would at least help. I'd love to say it would at least help if like I got paid to do it, but even then, that's a lot of time. That is a lot of time to invest. By the way, Dallas's goaltenders. Those aren't changing. I don't care what you say. They're garbage. Both of them. Absolute garbage. Some people might disagree with Klingberg still being an 89, but it is what it is. I actually think the Dallas Stars might not have been too bad of a team to use with the likes of Faxa and Matthias Janmark, but that is what it is. And then you have Detroit. So here's your first look at the team that we'll have. I'm not going to talk about anything specific, although there are some players who I'm intrigued to see how they will pan out. But again, I'm not going to talk about anybody specific. We will get into this team in the next episode. And again, some people might disagree with overalls, and that is fine. Some people really might disagree with overalls, and that is fine. But they are what they are, damn it. That is what I am telling you now. But yeah, overall, like I said, wasn't too excited for this part of the video. I am excited, though, to see what the feedback is and to see the excitement levels. And, you know, hopefully the new series does well. I'm still thinking that the Bruins series will wrap up at the end of the upcoming, or at the end of this current season that we are on. And of course, if all things went to plan, I would have had a video of each series to go up along with this video. But the Fantasy Draft series will probably continue for a little bit while longer, and then I have a couple of ideas, again, that we can go with. You know, we had something kind of gimmicky like a Fantasy Draft series. Maybe it's the return of Nations United. Maybe it is the, you know, start of something else. Of course, as always, I will leave it up to a poll because this channel thrives and succeeds only because of the support of you guys. So why would I want to put out a video or a series? You know, I'd rather have, what I'm trying to say, this is awful. What I'm trying to say is if I'm going to have a new series, obviously I am going to want your input. And obviously I am going to make sure that it's something that you guys want to see. Now, thankfully, I'm in a spot where I'm at least gaining some subscribers every day, which is pretty damn cool. And even if this is the first video of mine that you've watched, then hey, you've picked a great time to jump aboard the bandwagon because you will be here for the start of this new series, which, by the way, goddamn, we're like 17, 18 minutes into this. So if this is your first video, if this is the first video of mine that someone was watching, that would be strange and one hell of a commitment. So I applaud anybody if that is the case. We are almost through the NHL. I'll probably go through the AHL as well, and then we'll probably take a look at some prospects. So goddamn, I am going to breeze through this now. So if you want to see a specific list, just pause your video, and that way you can look, because I fully admit I am running out of stuff to talk about because I took way too long on focusing. I didn't mean to hit the back button, son of a bitch. I focused way too much on making sure that I didn't miss out on saying anything that, you know, I should have been scrolling through these teams at that time, and I didn't, and that was a mistake. But it is what it is at this point. Oh, the Ottawa Senators. I'm recording this after the Bruins just lost to the Sens, which, well, full credit to the Sens, but you know, even if the Bruins missed the playoffs again, and no, I'm not going to turn this into full Bruins talk, but man, the playoff picture is just crazy. It's a fun time to be a hockey fan right about now, as these, I mean, well, for a few teams it might not be as fun, but some of the playoff races right now are insane. So it is a shame to watch the Bruins lose points, but I don't exactly want the Bruins to win the Atlantic Division. If I'm a Sens fan, I don't want the Sens to pass the Habs for the lead in the Atlantic Division, because whoever wins the Atlantic Division will probably have to play a team from the Metro in a wild card spot, and that is almost certain elimination, which, yeah, so give me the 2 seed in the Atlantic Division, and I would be ecstatic at this point. We are almost through the NHL level. Now, I should say, too, about some of the potentials. You'll notice that there aren't a lot of low potentials, And that's because I really found out throughout the course of the last 2 series that, God, low potential just doesn't work as it should. Low potential in this game basically means, yeah, you might as well not have them because odds are they're not going to become anything. There's still a chance that they could become a half-decent player. But for the most part, it just doesn't work out. So I was a bit kind, and, in a lot of cases where you could argue someone should have low potential, I went through and at least made it medium. Or if there was someone who was like a low top 9, maybe in some cases I went a high bottom 6 or even high AHL top 2. Again, it was a process. It was an absolute process. As big of a process as this video is, just to scroll through this, it was even bigger than that. And the AHL, again, is absurd. So we will go through this as quickly as possible. And again, you might notice some names. I'm not going to point too many people out. Maybe somebody will catch my eye. But for the most part, this is about getting through this list of teams as quickly as possible. Because like I said, otherwise, if I skip this part, people in the comments, rather than being focused... Well, actually, you know what? Now they say that. Rather than being focused on what the rules and restrictions of the series should be... The main focus would have been, I want to know who's on Anaheim, what the overalls and potentials are for Anaheim. Which, that discussion is going to be replaced by how the hell is Chris Gibson only a 76? Which, obviously not Chris Gibson. He's not going to be one of the main players people have issue with. But, yeah. You know what, by the way, we should trade, I'm just saying, if we traded for Joshua Hosang and gave him number 66, that would be funny. Just saying. I'm not saying we have to do it. I'm just saying. But, yeah, so we are breezing through this. Not really. It feels like it is taking forever. But again, it has to be done. It has to be done. The people want to know. I think. You guys wanted to know last time, because I recall the last video like this doing relatively well, which was surprising. I expected this style of video to get 50 views with people just being like, yeah, don't care. But no, I guess when you tell people that you've edited the overalls a bit, which by the way, Grand Rapids, a couple of interesting names and players to look at there. Not a great situation in Grand Rapids at the moment, though. God damn. And you know what? I'm still pissed about this. That is not Chris Brown. That picture is Chris Bork. I pointed that out in the last video. Damn it. It still bugs me. Especially when I was having to edit Hartford. That just bugged the shit out of me. It's just, how do you make that mistake? I don't get it. I don't. And no, I'm not saying don't worry about fixing Ultimate Team. Fix that. No, obviously, priorities. But still, how does that happen? I do not know. But let's take a look at the rest of the Iowa Wild. And yeah, we're done with looking at the Iowa Wild. I am running out of steam, guys. I am running out of steam. I am running out of stuff to say. But we will continue on. Because if you're still listening to me at this point, odds are you don't care. Number one, and you just like what I do here enough that you're going to watch it anyway, or it's complete background noise, which, if this is background noise for you, that'd be strange. Maybe you're just kind of checking back every 5 seconds, okay, he's almost to the Providence Bruins, and then I can stop listening to this moron, or maybe you mute the video, or instead of not listening to me, you could mute the video and just let it play all the way through, because that helps. Watching the entire video helps me out quite a bit. So yeah, kind of do that maybe. You don't have to look. You don't have to watch my shit at all. Just hit the button, mute it, and go watch something else that's more entertaining. You can do whatever the hell you want. That is fine by me. But oh my god. Now see, there are some videos where I can just rant and rave and I'll have a certain number of things to talk about. I ran out of shit to talk about at the 8-minute mark. So how I'm still going, I don't know. because I don't exactly want to stop every 5 seconds and be like, oh, Michael Kempney's overall. How about that? That's interesting, isn't it? No, I want to breeze through this. But speaking of Michael Kempney, actually, and I mentioned this at the start, EA only having a certain amount of time to put towards that. That's a big reason as to why I edit the rosters myself. And again, the creative players, most of them at this point were, I put them in myself. Others more towards the start, and the last video would have talked about that as well. Just Google search Peter Puck if you want to know it. I believe it's peterpuck.blogspot.com. They have been doing creative players and helping people, just quick and easy, like, oh, here's what their overall should be. Of course, you can make anyone's overall whatever the hell you want, but god damn, it's just, like, Michael Kempney was a great example, because until, like, the second or third roster update, he was still in, like, the 60 overalls, despite the fact that he made the Blackhawks opening lineup, or at least the opening team. So that's just one of the reasons. And again, I don't necessarily blame them. They only have so much time. There's only so much they can do. By the way, Brandon Davidson, if it was up to me, he'd be high top 6. It changes him to low top 4. There's nothing I can do about it. I apologize for that. But again, there's literally nothing I can do about it. He was one of those main players when I talked about the game just changing potentials on its own. He is one of the main players that I had trouble with. But yeah, so it's just, I am intrigued. I am intrigued to see what the reception is to this custom roster. I'm intrigued to see what the reception is to the fact that we will be using the Detroit Red Wings. I feel like I just forgot to look over the rest of Syracuse. You know what? I'll play it safe. Here's Syracuse again, in case I fucked up, which is very, very possible. Looking at the Marlies, a team that have some interesting pieces, that for sure. Marchenko and Marincin, they'd both be medium 6. Those were two other players that were a big, big hassle for me to deal with. We'll actually just scroll through the rest of that, because Toronto has quite a few interesting prospects on their team. But holy hell, we have almost made it. We have almost made it through the AHL. We are nearly half an hour into this damn video, but we have almost made it. Hallelujah for that. Oh my god, am I ready to stop talking at this point. There might be some debate over Nikolai Goldobin maybe being a little bit higher up, but I'm leaving him at a 78 for now. Jake Gensel's up to an 82. His goal the other night against Buffalo, holy shit. I don't know if you saw it, but that was crazy. And poor Sabres fans, because that was a rough way to lose that game. Quickly, we will go through the junior teams so that you guys can see the potentials. That is the big thing. Of course, some of these teams will have guys like Brock Besser and others that are in the CHL, Dennis Chalowski, or NCAA, Dennis Chalowski, but that way they can properly be on the accurate teams. Reed Duke, the very first fucking Vegas Golden Knight. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I want to switch to goalies, but I want to say this and not fuck it up, and then I fucked it up. It happened. We're going to breeze through this. Goalie potentials, if you care, I don't. I'm just going to breeze through this because it is going to be way, way, way too time consuming. Nolan Keane, low top 4. You know what? We'll leave him as that. Way too time consuming to sit here and to keep having to switch back and forth. Just not really worth it. But let's just breeze through this again. If you can't recognize certain players by their last name only, I do apologize. But damn it, we're about a half an hour into this. We need to finish up this video because I am out of stuff to talk about. I keep saying that, yet the video keeps going on. Basically, I'll say I'm out of stuff to talk about until I can actually think of something to talk about, which you can really tell now that I'm running out of out of anything decent to say at all, because I'm talking about the fact that I don't have anything to talk about, and as a result of that, I am continuing to run my mouth and at least have something. Oh my God, I can't breeze through these last two divisions quickly enough. Let's do this. OHL. Some good players in the OHL. That's an understatement. That is. Eric Cernak, though, by the way. Intrigued to see what he can become, not only in this game, but in real life, now that he is a member of the Tampa Bay, he is a member of the Tampa Bay. And I am intrigued to see how the LA Kings handle the fact that they have Jonathan Quick and Ben Bishop. I am intrigued to see what we're able to do in Detroit. I think it's going to be an interesting series, and it should be a fun series as well. But yeah, it seems like a long way away because I don't have any decent things to talk about at this point. Son of a bitch. Let's see. What can we do other than just spewing words out of my mouth right now as we continue to go through these menus? Although that is working out pretty damn well for me at this point, so that's cool. But I guess I could mention, also I'm not just randomly assigning potentials to these players. I look into the prospect ratings and all that stuff. I do a decent amount of research. Way too much research, and the fact that this is going to be another half an hour video dedicated to this roster, which I hope to not have to edit again this year. I don't think I will, unless, we get, over the summer, once the NHL draft hits, maybe we'll change some potentials at that time. Obviously, if certain players retire, actually, no, I'm an idiot, because, free agency, all that stuff. So there won't be any major changes until the summer, is what I'm trying to say. But those changes could be ridiculous, because when you talk about how to handle the fact that Vegas is a thing, what are we going to do with those players that are on Vegas? Because we, of course, can only have 30 teams. So if, I don't know, I can't think of an NHL player right now. If Nicholas Kronwall gets claimed by the Vegas Golden Knights, what do we do at that point? Do I just remove him from the, I can't actually remove him from the game. By that, I mean, do I put him on an international team so that he is not a factor? What do we do? I already went through the queue, didn't I? I literally just went through the queue, and here we are again. But that is don't even tell me what to do with that at this point, because that is so far away that it's irrelevant at this point. What isn't irrelevant is the fact that this video is over. Is the video irrelevant itself? That's a whole different debate. But there you guys have it. Episode 0. Designed to get you guys a look at what we're dealing with overall wise, potentials, creative players, and all of that. You have all the information you need on that front. And then, of course, as I've said a million times in this video already, it is your chance. Let me know, as far as this series goes, what we should do. Aside from the general, keep it realistic. Are there any restrictions that we should have? Any idea you have in general, let me know down in the comments below. And the official rules of the series will be confirmed, and we will get this series officially started in the next one. So keep an eye out. Episode 1 of Rebuilding Hockeytown will be out sooner rather than later. If you guys have made it through this whole video, you're insane. You are insane, and I can't thank you enough for that. But guys, until next time, God, I'm excited for this series. Let me know down in the comments below all of that. Support the videos, support the channel, support me in any way you deem necessary, and I will see you guys in the next one.